Hello everyone and welcome. So for the details on MCP, please go ahead and check the blog. The blog is linked in the description of this video. We talk about why MCP and how did we get to MCP, right? Now we are going to actually in this video do the demo, right? And the demo is this one, right? So basically we have and then we all actually talk about what this application is all about, how MCP applies here and so on, right? So there's a repair world application which accepts repair requests from different hotels, right? So what we are showing in this demo is for this application, an agent actually going ahead and using the MCP server that is provided by this application to go ahead and make requests, right? And that's what we are going to show. The agent is basically Google ADK based agent which uses the MCP tools that are exposed by this particular real world repair application, right? So that's the demo that we are going to show. The demo covers the setups that are needed, deployment, demo run, and the code explanation, right? And we're gonna update the demo video here. Now the setup steps, right? So definitely make sure that you have the Gemini API key. So you can find it here. Just search for Gemini API key and just go through this link. And go ahead and get the Gemini API key in the Google AI Studio. So once you have that, go ahead and do the next steps. So you can run it locally or you can run it on Google Cloud Shell. I'm going to use Google Cloud Shell just because it's even simpler and most of the things already come installed there. There's not a whole lot of setup that is needed. You need to install Node and Python on your local machine if you want to do it. But if not, just go ahead and run it on Google Cloud Shell. So I'm bringing up the Google Cloud Shell. So I'm going to go ahead and create two tabs in here just because in the first tab we want to run the application and in the second tab we want to run the agent which uses MCP. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and create a directory to run my demos in. You don't have to create it, you can run it anywhere you need. So, and then I'm going to go ahead and follow the setup steps. So first is cloning the application itself, then cloning the agent that uses the MCP server. We're going to take a look at the code for all the application, the MCP server and the agent a little bit later. I'm pretty much following the steps that are given here. So now we are running the application, creating the Python virtual environment, always recommended. And activating that environment. Make sure if you're running on Windows, use the scripts instead of bin, and on Linux copy this dot as well. So here we go. Let's go ahead and install the requirements. In fact, let's look at the requirements really quickly. So since this is like a UI application with a Python Flask backend, there's not a whole lot of things that are there here, right? So let's go ahead and install them. That's it. Now go ahead and run this application. So notice that the application is running. Now the way to access this, when you are on your local machine, you can just go to the port 5000 on localhost. But when you are running on the Cloud Shell, let's go ahead and go here, right? Change the port to 5000. Alright, so for customer, the username and passwords are like customer, and for the repairman or the technician, it's admin, right? So let's go ahead and use that. So in fact, let's do customer and create a few requests. So I'm gonna say AC12345, please fix, it is not cooling. Submit. So notice we have a request. Let's create another one, maybe TV12345 issue with the remote, please fix, submit. So we have two requests here, right? And what we can do is go ahead and log out. Notice that the application is working. So we're going to come back to this a little bit later, but let's finish our setup first. So we'll keep or let this application run here, and now comes basically the agent part, which, so I'm gonna for that go into the second tab, right? So I'm gonna go into the demo, then here go to the Google ADK MCP, which we had downloaded earlier using this command. Again here same, we are going to create the virtual environment. While that happens, let's copy the next command, and here we go, and go ahead and install the dependencies. In fact, let's check out the dependencies. So cat requirements. Notice that there are two dependencies here, the Google ADK, right, agent development kit, which is what we are going to use to create our agent, and the MCP server repair world. This is an MCP server that I've written for this application, right? So using the MCP server of this application, the agent that we have created using Google ADK is going to perform the operations on behalf of the customers, which is going to be our demo. So let's go ahead and install those dependencies. So here we go. So this might take a little bit of a time, so I'm going to come back once this is all done. Alright, so this is downloaded. The dependencies are here. Now the next step is, let's go ahead and do the fun part, which is running the demo of the agent. So we already have the application running. So the repair world company or the application exists now. Now for our agent or our hotels agent, you'll know if you read the blog, we want to go ahead and use that agent. So I'm going to go ahead and run it. So notice that it says please set the Google API key. Alright, so let's go ahead and update the Google API key. So this is where you need to update. So I'm going to go ahead and update that and then come back. So I'm using VI, but you can use the editor that you are comfortable with. Alright, so I have just updated the API key. Now let's go ahead and run the agent. In fact, let's clear the screen, and maybe I'll increase the font. So let's go ahead and text size a little larger here. Alright, so Python So now what is happening here, it is attempting to connect to the MCP server, which is basically a PyPy module, which is here. It's getting downloaded, or it did get downloaded here, right? And it has connected to it. And notice that now our agent has given us a prompt. So we can say, hello, what can you do? And notice that even if I misspelled something, the agent takes care of that, because at the back of it, it is using the Gemini LLM, right? So that's pretty awesome. We're gonna take a look at the code a little bit later. So notice that it says I can help you with repair requests, I can create new repair requests, and so on, right? So let's go ahead and ask it, do we have any open requests? So yes, there are open requests. Request ID is 1 for this. So notice that that's exactly what it is. So in fact, let's see, it says request ID 1 and request ID 2 are open, right? So if we go and log in with, let's say, customer here, that's exactly what we should see, right? These two are there. In fact, let's go ahead and ask it to create a report. Ask our agent, right? Can you please create a report for all requests? Make it such that I can email it to my boss. Yes. So notice that it has created a report, right? So maybe what we can ask now is like, can you create email text with these details for my boss? So notice that it did create that. So it kind of required a different prompt, but nevertheless, right? Here we go. So now let us go ahead, log in with the admin and close one of the requests, right? So I'm going to say admin. Imagine that somebody came and actually fixed the issue. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe close the request. So there we go. Now let's see. So let's see if we can get that information. So notice that the hotel agent itself, or the person who's running the agent, is really, they don't have to log in and check anything, right? And here there are only a few functionalities, but imagine this for a huge amount of functionality for a CRM application or something like that. So let's go ahead and say, hey, I realized the TV is working. Did someone fix it? Can you check for the request and confirm that? So notice that it does understand that it needs to check the status of the request, TV request. Now imagine just based on this information, right? All I've said here is just TV 12345 and issue with the remote. So it did understand what I'm talking about, right? It's pretty good, right? So yeah, so that's what it is. And what else can you do, right? So go ahead and play with it, right? Make sure you log in with customer as well as with so customer to create the request, and then admin to close request, right? And then interact with the agent. So I'm going to go ahead and say bye to the agent. All right, so now let's go ahead and take a look at how this code is working, right? Or how this agent is working. Now we can go back here and notice that this is basically what is going on. The repair word application is running, right? And then the MCP server that is provided is used by the ADK based agent. ADK is Google Agent Development Framework. You can check that, Google ADK, or Agent Development Kit, right? In fact, the agent code I've actually used. So for example, if you go into tools here, right, MCP tools, so our agent actually uses a lot of this code, right? So let's go ahead and first take a look at the application itself, right? So here we go. So this is basically the repair world application. Standard Flask application has some static files for the UI, and then the application.py file. This basically is the application that we ran. So let's go ahead and take a look at that one. Yeah, so basically notice it actually runs using a SQLite database. I wanted to keep this simple, right? If you want, go ahead and change it. It has a few APIs for creating a request, obviously login, creating a request, fixing a request, and so on. Fixing a request is done by the repairman, right? And creating the request is done by customer, and so on, right? And both can actually fetch or view the requests, right? Now that's pretty much that application. Is fairly straightforward, standard Flask application, right? Flask HTML, JavaScript, and Bootstrap for the UI. Next one is the agent, but before, so let's take a look at that agent. In fact, this is the file that we ran. So as I said, this code is a lot of it is from here. I just changed some things to fit with our use case. So here we go. Basically what we are doing here is we are basically calling the MCP server, right? And underneath here somewhere, notice that, so our agent has two parts. Basically one is the thinking part, the brain of the agent, which is basically the Gemini 2.0 Flash model, right? And then it requires, or we are giving it some tools to run with. So those tools are basically the tools that are exposed by the MCP server repair world, which is basically a module that I've uploaded into PyPy. So it's also there in the requirement. See this one. So we require Google ADK and then the MCP server repair world. So this is what it uses. So initially what actually happens, it basically standard agent, right, which is using these tools. The tools are basically given by the MCP server. So now let's look at the MCP server code itself. So here we go. Again, all these links are provided here as well, links to the source code. Now you don't really have to download this. This is basically what's there in the PyPy module, which gets downloaded for the agent, right? But let's quickly take a look at the server itself. So notice that the server has two tools. So notice that it says, hey, this is the one that creates new repair requests for the customers, right? And internally, it basically goes ahead and calls the API. So ideally, the business provider should actually give their customers this kind of an MCP server, right? The provider. Then another tool is for viewing all requests. Then another tool for viewing requests by ID, right? And that's really that. Those three tools are there, and basically then all it does is runs that MCP server, right, with these tools. Now when our agent runs, it first fetches the tools, which is what you would have seen here. Let's see. Notice it says fetch 3 tools from the MCP server, and then after that, anything that we ask first goes to the LLM, in this case the Gemini Flash 2.0 model, that basically then reasons on it, decides whether or not it needs to call the particular tool. If it does, it goes ahead and does that, and then it gives us the responses like here, right? And that's really that. And yeah, so that pretty much covers the demo. You can of course run it locally as well, and the instructions for that are also provided. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I wanted to cover in this demo. Make sure you have the Gemini API key before you do these steps. Do share this blog as well as the demo video with anybody that who might need it. All right, thank you so much. Bye.